How's it going, everyone? Cheese for 64 here, coming at you with another fictional character in D&D. Today's character is a character many of you may be familiar with if you've played the Fallout series. You either love him or you hate him. There's really no in between. It's the one and only Preston Garvey. Let's get into it, shall we?
Hey, up here, on the balcony. I've got a group of travelers inside. The raiders are almost through the door. Grab that laser musket and help us, please!
So, Preston Garvey, a dedicated and honorable member of the Commonwealth Minutemen. He's known for his leadership, combat skills, and a strong moral compass. He values helping others, building communities, and fighting for justice. Now, before we go further into this build, I do just want to give a heads up. This will be using UA content and third-party content. If your DM is not cool with that, this probably isn't the build for you. But if your DM is cool with it, then stick around. As always with these builds, I'm going to rate how difficult I think the build is to play and how difficult of a lore kind of build it is. So for difficulty, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, just because at the end of the day, we are only a fighter. However, we are using GunSlinger, so it will potentially be a little difficult for newer players. It's not the most difficult class in the world, because at the end of the day, you are just a fighter, but it has a little bit of extra spice to it. So that's why I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. As for lore, it's a 2 out of 5. Come on, it's Preston Garvey at the end of the day. You're basically just a goody two-shoes paladin, who's not actually a paladin, and you're just trying to spread good to the people of the Commonwealth, or whatever your campaign setting takes place. As for the stats and everything of the character, as always with these builds, I will be using a point-buy calculator. However, if you do not want to use a point-buy calculator, that's perfectly okay. Just go into the rough area of the stats. Now, most importantly, all of these stats will be boosted by 1 because we are going to be a human. We're not going to be a variant human, so we're just going to be a plain old human, and get +1 to everything, make it real simple for us. So, basing his stats off of his special stats from Fallout 4, we're going to roughly translate that into the D&D ability scores. His strength is going to be his lowest stat at 5 in his special stat, which means we're only going to have it at 8. We don't need to give it any buff, but it is going to get buffed by 1 no matter what we do. Dex is one of your most important stats for this build, so we're going to have that at 15, getting buffed by 1 because we're human, making it 16. Constitution also is pretty important because you might be in the front lines a little more than you think, so we're going to have that at 13, getting buffed to 14. Intelligence, one of our dump stats, but we're not going to be like a total idiot, so we're going to have that at 9, giving it a bump to 10 because it's human. Wisdom is actually our most important stat with this build. Right up there with Dex. And it doesn't seem like it would be important, but it will get important as we get more into the class. So for that reason, we're going to have it at 15, getting bumped by 1, 16. And last but not least, our charisma. Look, you're not the right-hand man of the general of the Minutemen for nothing. So for that reason, we're going to have it be a respectable 11, getting boosted to 12. Now, that we've gotten all the ability and race out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the class and background. Our background, very obviously, is going to be a soldier. This background just fits Preston very well. He's with his history in the Minutemen. It provides proficiency in athletics and intimidation, as well as a military rank. These are perfect things that'll fit Preston very well. And yeah, sure, it's a little basic, but it just works so well for him. Next up, our class. We are going to be a fighter. Preston is a combat-oriented character who leads and protects. The fighter class suits his skills in combat and leadership almost perfectly. Specifically, the gunslinger archetype within the fighter class emphasizes his combat prowess and his ability to inspire others. As for the skills we'll be getting from our background and class and all of that, we are going to take athletics and intimidation from our soldier background, as well as perception and survival. Since our wisdom is already so high, getting those boosted even more just helps out that much more and is a wonderful, wonderful little touch on top of that. Now, let's go ahead and get into the actual levels of the build. I'm only going to go to level 6 If you guys want more in the future, let me know in the comment section down below. Like this video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Yada, yada, yada. The YouTube shill. But I'm only going to level 6 because I want you guys to be able to build and expand on how you think the character should go. I want to give you a rough template. If you really want level 20, let me know in the comment section, and I will make sure to go to level 20 on the next one. Otherwise, I'll be going roughly to 6 for most builds, unless the class absolutely requires us to go farther. So, that being said, level 1, we're a fighter. We get a fighting style and a second wind. Now, as I said earlier, the fighting style we are going to take is a UA fighting style, so if your DM is not okay with that, well, then the fighting style doesn't matter too much. But if we are allowed to have that fighting style, we are going to go with Close Quarters Shooter. When making a range attack while you're within 5 feet of a hostile creature, you do not have disadvantage on the attack roll. Your range attack ignore half cover and 3/4 cover against targets within 30 feet of you. And you have a +1 bonus to attack rolls on ranged attacks. This will just make it so our guns are just that much more accurate, and we're not getting pressured by opponents right next to us if they happen to get up close. On top of that, we also get Second Wind, which is just a little bonus health to heal ourselves as a bonus action once during a fight. Nothing crazy, but it's nice to have. Leveling up again, we're going to go into fighters still. We're going to get Action Surge. Once per long rest, extra action per a fight. That's pretty good to have. Now, our martial archetype, we're leveling up again, level 3, fighter. And we are, like I said, going to go Gunslinger. We get so much cool stuff from this. We get firearm proficiency, gunsmith, and adapt marksman. Firearm proficiency, pretty self-explanatory, gives us proficiency in firearms. Gunsmith allows us to make ammunition and craft our own firearms to the DM's discretion. But the real bread and butter is adept marksman. We get so much cool stuff from this. We gain grit and trick shots, and this is why our wisdom was so important. You see, grit is equal to our wisdom modifier, and we can regain grit points each time you roll a 20 on the dice. Or you deal a killing blow with a firearm to a creature of significant threat. However, that is the DM's discretion, so don't always rely on that one. But having those extra grit points will be super helpful for the early levels. And as we raise our wisdom higher and higher, as we level up a little more, having those grit points is just going to be so pivotal to the build. You also regain all your extended hit points after a short or long rest. So you are one of those fighters that actually gets a lot done during short rests. On top of that, we also get Trick Shot. You learn 2 trick shots of your choice, many maneuvers, enhance an attack in some way. Each use of trick shot must be declared before the attack roll is made, and you only can use 1 trick shot per attack. We'll learn additional trick shots as we level up with the build, but I'm not going to go into those because that is past the level I am going with this build. Now, the 2 trick shots we are going to take for now are Deadeye Shot and Piercing Shot. Deadeye Shot makes it so we get advantage. We can spend a grip point, get advantage on the shot. Very simple, but it's so nice to have. With our laser musket, making sure to we land those powerful shots. That advantage is so helpful, and it'll make it also more likely that we'll get more grit points back by rolling a natural 20. Then the second one we are going to get is Piercing Shot. When you make a firearm attack against a creature, you can spend 1 grit point to attempt to fire through multiple opponents. The initial attack gains a +1 to the firearm's misfire score. I'm not going to go into misfire. You can read up that on your own. I apologize. But on hit, the creature suffers normal damage, and you make an attack roll with advantage against every creature in the line directly behind the target within the first range increment. Only the initial attack can misfire the weapon. This basically turns our weapon, our gun, into a mini lightning bolt each time we use Piercing Shot. So if there's a couple enemies lined up, might not be a bad option. That being said, though, level 4 comes around, and we're going to get an ability score improvement. It's going to be fairly simple. We're just going to buff our wisdom by 2, getting it to 18, and we'll have that beautiful +4, giving us 1 extra grit point. Level 5 comes, we get an extra attack. Finally, level 6, we get another ability score improvement. This one, you have 2 options for it. Personally, I recommend increasing our dex by +2, because that helps our saving throws with some of our trick shots later. However, you also can get a feat. The one I recommend is Inspiring Leader. It'll allow you to give temporary hit points to allies, and it fits Preston pretty well, actually. Granted, this is based off charisma, so it's not the greatest thing in the world, but Those temporary hit points in the early levels can come in handy. This will only be at level 6, and I think it's a nice little touch to add on to him. Of course, again, if you do not want to, by all means, you do not have to take this feat and just go with another simple level up of +2 to your dex. But that's the build. I know it's only level 6, but I'm trying to make these formats a little more digestible and enjoyable for all the viewers. So tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Should I go to level 20 with these builds, or should I just go to level 6 and let you guys have the creative freedom of continuing the build? I'm curious what you guys think, but until next time, I've been your host, Geezer64, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Farewell!